Past wars, soldiers feared tanks, artillery, and airstrikes. In this war, they fear something smaller, something quieter. A sound like a mosquito, followed by an explosion. Today, we break down every major drone used in the Russia-Ukraine war, and how these machines changed warfare itself. Bayraktar TB2. The Bayraktar TB2 entered the war immediately in February 2022 during the opening phase of Russia's invasion. At a time when Russian columns were stretched, disorganized, and exposed, TB2 drones struck fuel convoys, air defense systems, and armored vehicles. These early strikes had an outsized impact. Footage of TB2 destroying Russian targets went viral worldwide, boosting Ukrainian morale and shaping global perception of the war. By mid-2022, Russian air defenses and electronic warfare began pushing TB2s farther from the front. But by then, the damage was done. TB2 proved that drones could dominate the opening phase of a modern war. Switchblade 300. Switchblade 300 arrived in Ukraine in spring 2022 as Western military aid began accelerating. It was introduced to empower small infantry units facing larger Russian formations. Its battlefield impact was subtle but important. Ukrainian troops could suddenly strike enemy soldiers hiding behind cover without exposing themselves. Though it didn't change front lines overnight, it changed infantry behavior. Russian soldiers became more cautious, knowing threats could come from above at any moment. Switchblade 300 marked the beginning of drone warfare at the squad level. Switchblade 600. The Switchblade 600 followed shortly after, mid-2022, when armored warfare intensified in eastern Ukraine. It was designed specifically to counter Russian tanks and fortified positions. Its presence forced Russian armor to operate more defensively. Even when not used, the threat of a top-attack drone slowed advances and altered tactics. While numbers were limited, its psychological impact was significant. It showed that even heavy armor was no longer safe. Phoenix Ghost. Phoenix Ghost appeared quietly in late 2022 with very little public attention. It was designed specifically for Ukrainian requirements, based on real battlefield feedback. Its impact came through precision rather than visibility. It allowed Ukraine to target high-value assets like command vehicles and air defense systems with patience and accuracy. The secrecy surrounding Phoenix Ghost suggests sensitive capabilities. Its existence highlighted how fast modern weapons can be designed for a single war. Warmate. Warmate drones were supplied throughout 2022, especially during Ukraine's defensive operations. They filled a gap between small FPV drones and larger strike systems. Warmate was used effectively against artillery crews and lightly armored vehicles. It reduced Russia's ability to safely position guns near the front. While it didn't dominate headlines, it steadily weakened enemy firepower. Warmate proved consistency can matter more than spectacle. PD-2. The PD-2 entered service as Ukraine adapted to prolonged war in 2022 and 2023. As battle stabilized, intelligence became more important than shock strikes. PD-2 drones provided long-range reconnaissance and artillery correction. They improved accuracy and reduced ammunition waste. Their impact was indirect but critical. Better intelligence meant fewer mistakes and fewer casualties. Lelika 100. Lelika 100 was used extensively from early 2022 onward, especially in trench warfare. Its role became vital as front lines froze into static positions. By constantly observing enemy trenches and movements, it prevented surprise attacks. Russian troops struggled to hide even basic maneuvers. Lelika didn't destroy targets, it denied the enemy's secrecy. In modern war, that alone is devastating. Shark and Valkyria. These drones became prominent during Ukraine's counteroffensives in 2022 to 2023. They supported planning rather than direct combat. Their impact was strategic. Commanders gained clearer battlefield pictures, improving coordination between units. They represent the intelligence backbone of modern warfare. Wars are now won before shots are fired. FPV kamikaze drones. FPV drones exploded onto the battlefield in late 2022 and dominated 2023 onward. They emerged as a response to shortages of traditional weapons. Their impact was revolutionary. Cheap drones destroyed tanks, bunkers, artillery, and even helicopters on the ground. They forced both sides to change everything, armor, movement, logistics, even morale. FPVs became the symbol of the war itself. Orlan 10. Orlan 10 has been used since day one of the invasion in 2022. It formed the backbone of Russian reconnaissance. Its impact came from scale. Thousands were deployed, feeding artillery constant data. Despite frequent shootdowns, Orlan 10 ensured Russia never fought blind. Quantity became its greatest strength. Lancet 3. Lancet 3 became prominent in 2023 as Russia focused on precision strikes. It was used heavily against Ukrainian artillery and air defense systems. Its impact was tactical and psychological. Operators hunted expensive Western equipment with cheap drones. Lancet footage became a propaganda tool. It showed drones could counter advanced weapons. Shahid 136/Garand-2. Shahid drones entered the war in late 2022, marking a new phase of long-range drone warfare. They were used primarily against Ukrainian infrastructure. Their impact was strategic exhaustion. Air defenses were forced to engage cheap drones with expensive missiles. While not precise, Shahids changed air defense economics. They turned defense into a losing game. Forpost Air. The four-post star represented Russia's push toward long-endurance, operational-level drones, and it began appearing in the Russo-Ukrainian War shortly after the initial invasion in 2022, once the conflict shifted from rapid advances to sustained, intelligence-driven warfare. As a modernized, domestically produced successor to the earlier Israeli license for Post, it was intended to give Russian forces persistent eyes far beyond the front line. Equipped with advanced electro-optical and infrared sensors, the four-post star could stay airborne for many hours, monitoring troop movements, identifying artillery positions, and tracking logistics routes deep behind Ukrainian lines. Unlike smaller tactical drones, it operated at higher altitudes and longer ranges, making it suitable for coordinating artillery, missile strikes, and operational planning across entire sectors of the front. Its strength lay in endurance and reach. The four-post star allowed Russian commanders to observe the battlefield continuously rather than in short snapshots, improving targeting accuracy and enabling follow-up strikes on previously detected positions. In some cases, it was also reported to carry light, guided munitions, blurring the line between reconnaissance and strike capability. However, its size and cost became liabilities. As Ukrainian air defenses and electronic warfare systems improved through 2022 and 2023, the four-post star became increasingly vulnerable to surface-to-air missiles and long-range interception. Several were confirmed shot down, limiting how aggressively Russia could deploy them near contested airspace. Despite this, the four-post star played a key role in demonstrating how persistent aerial surveillance could shape modern warfare, influencing both sides' emphasis on layered drone operations and counter-drone defenses. Aileron 3. The Aileron 3 entered the Russo-Ukrainian War from the very first days of the invasion in early 2022, serving as one of Russia's primary short-range reconnaissance drones. Designed for rapid deployment at battalion and brigade level, it was intended to give frontline units immediate aerial awareness without relying on larger, centralized UAV systems. Lightweight and electrically powered, the Aileron 3 carried optical and infrared cameras capable of spotting troop movements, artillery positions, and vehicle concentrations at short to medium ranges. With a relatively quiet flight profile and endurance of up to 2 hours, it allowed Russian units to adjust artillery fire, monitor defensive lines, and conduct basic battlefield surveillance, especially during early offensives. In practice, the drone proved useful but fragile. While effective in permissive environments, it struggled once Ukrainian forces expanded their electronic warfare coverage. GPS disruption, signal jamming, and small arms fire led to heavy losses, and its limited range meant operators often had to work dangerously close to the front. By late 2022 and into 2023, the Aileron 3's role diminished as both sides escalated drone warfare. It was increasingly replaced by more resilient reconnaissance platforms and FPV drones that could both observe and strike. Still, the Aileron 3 helped shape Russia's early drone doctrine, demonstrating how persistent battlefield surveillance, even at a small scale, could dramatically influence artillery effectiveness and tactical decision-making. Kubla. The KUBBLA was one of Russia's earliest attempts to introduce loitering munitions into the war, appearing in the opening months of the invasion in early 2022, when Moscow was still experimenting with drone-led strike concepts. Developed as a lightweight, disposable attack drone. It was designed to circle above the battlefield before diving into targets, such as infantry positions, light vehicles, and stationary equipment. Armed with a relatively small explosive warhead and guided by a simple electro-optical system, the KUB-BLA was meant to be cheap, quiet, and easy to deploy. In theory, it offered Russian forces a precision strike option without risking pilots or expensive missiles, making it suitable for frontline harassment and quick reaction attacks. However, in real combat, its limitations became obvious. The drone suffered from short endurance, limited accuracy, and vulnerability to electronic warfare, especially once Ukrainian forces adapted their counter-drone measures. Operators often struggled to positively identify targets before committing to an attack, reducing its effectiveness in fast-moving battles. As the war progressed into late 2022, the KUB-BLA was increasingly sidelined and quietly replaced by more capable systems like the Lancet III. While it failed to achieve lasting battlefield success, the KUB-BLA played an important role as a stepping stone, helping Russia refine its loitering munition tactics and shaping the next generation of kamikaze drones used later in the conflict. Commercial drones from both sides. Commercial drones were used from the very first weeks of the war. As military drones ran out, civilians filled the gap. Their impact cannot be overstated. They enabled grenade drops, FPV strikes, and constant surveillance. This war proved that modern conflict no longer belongs only to armies. It belongs to anyone with a drone and a signal. The Russia-Ukraine war proved that the future of warfare isn't about size or power. It's about intelligence, speed, and adaptability. Drones didn't just support this war, they reshaped it. And every modern army is watching closely, because the next war will look exactly like this.